I got this car back in January 14th, a week prior to it, I was so determined to just get in the car the next week. I waited so long, and since like my senior year of high school, and that I graduated back in 2023, but it was from the fall of 2022 to where like I was so determined to just save up the money, and hopefully I could get my car within time, you know, within a short time. But I didn't. I had to wait a long time, and it took a lot of patience out of me. But I believe I got the car when I was meant to get it. January came by. I initially thought I would have saved up more, but realistically, with where I had to put the down payment and where I have to deal with a monthly car payment, it was for the best. Because if anything, it helped so much with just the credit score and everything. So I was just kind of like, cool, I'll just settle for that. And before, I was just so like adamant that like I could not do it. I didn't want to do a car payment. I was gonna pay it all in full, but I just pay it at a bigger price. But I mean, it was a convenient way of doing it. So it's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm not gonna be that opposed to it. Nothing wrong with having a car note realistically, as long as you can afford it at a reasonable price. And which is why I'm glad that my stepfather, said, hey, the cars that you're showing me, like, you're not like you're not gonna really afford it. And of course, that frustrated me because, like, what do you mean? Like, I see the estimated calculator on Car Guru. Like, no, I can't afford this. This isn't like out of my budget. But then when we got there at the dealership for this car, it well, the car note wasn't what I was expecting. I can afford it, yeah, but the thing is that like it wasn't where I was expecting it to be because I thought it was going to be like cheaper. But then they were like, oh well, we upscaled it because of insurance and all that. So I was like, okay, great. So yeah, there were the couple cars that I wanted before. It was a Lexus ES. So I was kind of like, you know what, maybe it won't be too bad, but it wasn't really what I wanted. And same goes for this other Toyota Camry. It was a 2020. It was the cheapest trim, but it had push to start. So I was like, okay, cool. Maybe I'll be cool with that. But again, it didn't realistically have all the features I wanted. But there's a Honda Accord Coupe. But it was in New Jersey. And I'm telling you, it had everything on the checklist that I wanted. Everything. With the heated seats, the V6, the nice like interior of the infotainment, the gauge cluster, like everything. It had everything that I wanted. But it was in New Jersey. And after I did all the paperwork with this car and just having to wait like a couple hours, like when we got to the dealership, it was around like 10, maybe 11. And we didn't get done till like 2 or 3 o'clock. So it took a while. And I was like, dang, like I wasn't expecting all that to take so long. So if we had went all the way to New Jersey, which is like a 3-hour drive from where I live, just to do all the paperwork and all that, and then to drive on back, it would have been a long day. I'm telling you, it would have been a long day. So, I'm glad that we did it. And, it was actually the weekend before I got my car to where I was like, I kept on searching. And before it, I literally found the car January 13th, that night, because I was that motivated. It's like, nah, man, I gotta get my car because I was waiting for so long. I've been waiting for so long. And the fact that I found this car, it had the heated seats, the infotainment. Yes, 2012, it's dated to today. I'm aware of that. But, like, I mean, it didn't look that bad, though. I like the gauge cluster. The steering wheel wasn't too bad. I actually really liked the taillights and everything. Like, I liked a lot of, like, I liked the majority of the car. The only thing I didn't really like was just the headlights and grill at first. So, yeah, after doing all that paperwork and everything there, I, and just like even driving it for the first time, like it just made me like be more humble and more appreciative of just like the experience that I went through with just this car alone. So yeah, so to carry on with the next point, why and how I got on into cars. Ever since I was just 5 years old, I don't know if I think my dad got the CD. It was for cars, right? And I remember the house I first watched it, and man, I'm telling you, I just fell in love with it. Like I don't know, just hearing like lightning, like the V8, the mixture of audios that they whatever they did to making that iconic sound for Lightning McQueen's engine. I'm telling you, first time I heard it, seeing that first scene to where you see the introduction to him, like it made me feel in love with it, with just cars and everything. I don't know, I can't explain it, but it just felt so cool to me as a kid to see it. And I watched that movie like thousands of times. I'm telling you, I could tell you scene by scene at this point. Like that's how much I loved it. And man, like I bet my dad could do the same thing because I watched so much with him, you know. And that's a core memory for me. A couple years go by, I was like 8, 9 years old. I don't recall the age, but around that age range, right? My dad, he had the PS3 and he also had Gran Turismo 5. Me as a kid, I didn't know anything about cars. I was just kind of like, you know what? Let me try it out. And I even asked my father, like, hey, what's like your favorite cars? Because like, you know, as a kid, like you view your parents as like heroes, and that's how I viewed my dad. So you know, naturally, I was like, let me play as his favorite. Let me pick his favorite car and play as that. His favorite car was the Mustang and the Challenger. So I looked for it. I went through, I scrolled through all the different types of cars. I picked those cars. I don't care if it was a dirt race, a street race, wherever. I picked those cars. I was like stuck with them cars because of my father as a kid, and of course I made it red because of Lightning McQueen. So you know that's how addicted I was to that to Lightning McQueen cars. So you know, I played that game so many times with my brother and my father, and like that's like another core memory that I will never forget, and I will always cherish until the day I die. But the thing is, what kind of sucks is that that's all I had. That's all the knowledge I had of cars for all that time, for that time period. So, you know, years going by and I didn't have consistent exposure because, you know, I couldn't see my father all the time, you know, because of, you know, my parents being split and all that. So I was like, all right, cool. Years going by and we're going back to where I realized I needed a car during my senior year of high school. And during that fall, you know, a couple of my friends, they would just talk about cars, you know, after school. So I was like, all right, cool. You know what? Let me see what they're talking about. Like, why are they so obsessed with it? I started watching Throttle House, Donut, the Straight Pipes, and I'm going to put a list of different YouTubers as the years went on by to where we're at now of today, of all the different YouTubers I watch. But you know, besides that, like you know, those three YouTubers, like I started off with Throttle House, and like if I could look up the video, I would show you the video right there. That's the first one that hooked me on, and like that's what really got me like hooked onto it because like it was so cool to like invest on so much knowledge on just like the different variety of cars from like the economy cars, the sports cars, the luxury cars, the history of the brands, how they came to be, how many car brands went bankrupt, like all of that. To be like a nerd and to obsess over that, like that's what got me so invested, and also not only because of the YouTubers, but also just because I had people I could talk to, you know, and like it and like going to the cars and coffee that's nearby my house, you know, and, like it was cool to really like see the sense of community that was like built from that, and like that's what got me so immersed into that, you know. So yeah, I think regardless of even if my friends weren't weren't even talking about cars after school, I bet I would have gotten into cars regardless because of my passion that I already had from Lightning McQueen. And like, shoot, I'm gonna love Lightning McQueen till the day I die. I know I repeated that, I know I repeated myself, but it's the truth, man. It's just some like that, like I don't know. It's just so burnt, and like the memories are so burnt into my head because of just seeing that scene of just like Doc Hudson just doing that drift, or and Lightning McQueen doing that as well. And like I don't know, it just like it felt so chilling to see, just seeing the tires just turn that way and seeing the dirt and the sound effects. Like I don't know, just everything, the colors, the shading, the lighting, like everything. Like I don't know. I don't know why I became so obsessed with it. It just stuck with me. It resonated with me that deeply, you know? So yeah. So moving on to the next point, what I've learned to really appreciate about cars. And I know I already stated what I appreciate about this car, but let's talk about the wider scope of things, right? So with economy cars and sports cars and luxury cars, there's like a lot of attributes to where like you can really learn to appreciate, right? And back when I was like 17, I'm thinking like, oh, I gotta have a more modern day, sleeker, like appeal of a car to where it's like, this is like will define my worth. Like if I get this, then I can be approved for everybody because I got the meanest, the most sleekest, the most like aggressive looking kind of car, and like I can stand on that. I can represent that, and like like build my identity off of pride for the stuff I own. But that's not how I should have went. That was so egotistical of me. So when I learned to like appreciate like economy cars, like it humbled me because it's just kind of like I didn't need to start off big. I could just start off small and just build from that. It's what would make getting that big reward of just earning that like car that like means something within the car world, be like worth more because like I worked at that point. I started off at this point and I built myself to get there. To get to that high point. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So with your Toyota Camrys, with your Honda Accords, with your Corollas, like they're there for a reason. And I hate how within the car community, like we tend to bash on what people have because of like, oh, they don't have the funds for that. Cool, man. Your family was privileged enough to have a higher financial status, man. That's how your family managed to build themselves up. Not everybody gets that. And like, I'm aware that not everyone is like this in the car community, but like there are still people who are highly prideful, and that do exist, and that sucks. I'm not gonna sit here and just act like it's not present, you know what I'm saying? So yeah. And and also another reason for why they're there is for people who just simply don't care, and like I know it's hard for people who are car nerds to really like view in their kind of lens because it's kind of like how could we, like we love these vehicles so much to where it's like we can't really view a world to where it's like now we can't like view it in that kind of scope of appreciation, so yeah. I, I know it's like with all the knowledge I've gained, like it's hard to really not appreciate cars the way that I do, and I guess I could also say we do, So yeah, and I guess from people who don't really care about cars, I get you can say like, oh, why would you spend so much money on a sports car? It's going to just depreciate, it doesn't matter as long as I get from point A to point B. That's all that matters. Well, it, I mean, they're fun. Like I don't know, like I know it's like um a well articulated way to really like orchestrate my argument for it, but they're fun. They pump testosterone within you, and they build all that like adrenaline within you. You like to feel that rush. Look with this car, man. Like oh. you, like, it could just go, man. Like, man, it could just, like, go. Like, and this is just like a V6, and this is pushing to like 300. So yeah, it's to bring in that dumb fun. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, of course, like people want to splurge all of that like thousands of dollars of money into their cars and make it go fast because it's it's highly adrenaline inducing, man. Like, of course. And people want to chase that feeling. And like I don't blame them. I do it here and there all the time. But I get from the perspective to where it's like, why not be, reasonable with your budget and, be kind of, and just be cheaper with it. But the thing is, it's like with the concept of sports cars, I think what's so cool about them is like, what if we can make a car that can just like push the limits and go at the red line at like a certain gear and just like, no, not like crumple upon itself. You know what I'm saying? Sorry, I meant crumble. I don't know why I say it like that. Whatever. But anyways, yeah, to make a car that doesn't like, fall apart on itself and that has the materials to sustain itself at like higher speeds, you know what I'm saying? That's a cool aspect about it. Like, yeah. And with luxury cars, I think this is one like Throttle House video I watched recently. It's like a couple months back. I don't know when they released. I'm gonna put it up there. And like they compare like a 7 Series BMW and like a S Class like Benz, and they both had a V10. And of course you can see yourself, oh well, what's the point of luxury cars? I mean, they're kind of just dull. Like, why would you all always want that quiet? And I said, why not be loud and obnoxious and have all that adrenaline that you can get from sports cars? Well, I think with luxury cars, what you can appreciate is that quiet, Like, even on this road right here that I'm on right now, like, it's something so calming. I just like going at these low speeds and just like not having the presence of just the noise from my V6, and just letting the car just kind of like sift through and just like glide in a sense. I don't know. To me, it feels like therapeutic in a sense. I don't know why it feels that way, but maybe it's not because I have to worry about having my hands just gripping my handle and just like having to worry about how much control I have on my car when I'm going at high speeds. But I think that's like the essence of it. Just that tranquility of that silence, that calmness that it can just provide. I think that's where you can like appreciate luxury cars from there. I know from the stuff that I'm saying here, any basic person can understand that. Like, I know I'm not even trying to be oppressive with what I'm saying, but it's just from my standpoint, from where like where I've learned uh from where I've learned to appreciate from cars, and where I stand on my viewpoint on cars. This is just where I've just come to from my point of acknowledgement for these cars. So yeah. So I think I want to bring on to the next point of the video, and to where I feel like I wasn't deserving. I believe that I'm repeating myself, but I feel like, yeah, like, so like I was saying earlier on with just wanting to live to like that standard of like, oh, I need to have a modern day car in order to be approved for everybody. It's like, that's just not the case. Because why the hell am I going to let a car define my value and worth as a human being? That's so stupid. You can have the fanciest shoes, you can have the fanciest clothes, you can have like the most expensive materials in the world, but that doesn't define you. Like, why should the objects that you own define your worth? I feel like that's just stupid. You know, that doesn't like bring that value of you as a person. Just because you can have all these materials to where they're made of the most expensive qualities of stuff, and all of those stuff like that, doesn't bring you that sense of entitlement of being better than other people. Well, why does that bring you that title of, yes, I'm superior to everyone because I got like an M3 when I was like 16? Okay, man, you found the method, and or you got your own your daddy's money to get you that. That's you, man. But it doesn't make you better because you got an M3. You know what I'm saying? And I see this like here and there. It's not every time. I'm not saying that this is every owner who owns these sports cars, these high end, a type of cars. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that. But my thing is that like, you know, what bothers me is that these people believe that they're like have such a higher sense of like worth because they own these things. Nah, man, that's just stupid. It's really stupid, man. I don't get where they're coming from. Maybe their egos are so comprised of just pride to where they're just so blinded by that they can't see themselves in a humble perspective and see different walks of life. I don't know, but yeah, and like when I sit here and say like I love my car, like I mean that, like this is why like I'm circling back to where like I don't believe I would have deserved this car or a car back then until I've completed my sense of like my self value as a person and also like to understand like the values that like different types of cars can bring. Yeah, there's some questionable cars out there that I'm not a huge fan of, but besides that, like, that doesn't mean that they don't have that much value within the car, like I said, but back then, like, I didn't initially thought I would have like loved this car, but like the moment I sat in here and took the first drive of it, like yeah, it made me fall in love with it, you know, and like there's something about like the 2000s and the early 2010s to where like I really do like that bulby look to the headlights and everything, man. There's something like iconic to it. And while I do appreciate the new and current design language of cars where they're sleek and they have like the um more rectangular look of the headlights and everything, I'll show the pictures of what I'm talking about, the current design language, and compare them, but like um like yeah, like there's something like cool to appreciate both eras, you know what I'm saying? So when I was trying to focus on with like the older eras of cars, I think like my favorite like generation of the WRX is like the one from the early 2000s. Like I don't know, it has like more character in a sense with just the circular headlights and like their more cartoonish look and how much more simpler it has. And like the generation before the current generation, sorry, I'm not a WRX fan. So I don't know all the generations, but you know, like I think there's something like there's something cool about those generations. Yeah, but it's like I don't know. There's something like a bit more flair that the early 2000s like WRX just had to me that I just like I can appreciate and just say like it has its own identity and charm for its design language of its time. So yeah, yeah. So I just wanted to say thank you for the ones who managed to stick by the end of the video, and that I am excited for the future of the channel, and that I look forward for the future content eh, that I am making for the future of the channel. But that wasn't the only thing I wanted to mention, and what I wanted to mention was that this video should have been made a long time ago. I'm talking like within like the springtime of this year, or better yet, it should have been finished like the end of the summer. But I had reached a point to where my anxiety got the best of me, and I feel as if that like I had to really like sit down and reevaluate myself because I wasn't sure if I was going to be ready for doing this. And I sit here and I'm just like thinking like that's so crazy because for someone who's so vocal about their passion for art, it's like this is the one thing like I'm afraid of, you know, like just like putting out content, and like that's kind of crazy to me, but I understand why because like I'm putting myself out there, and like you can't really you can't really predict or like know what to expect, like, you know, how people will receive your content. You know, you could immediately get like backlash just for like no reason, you know. So it was very anxiety inducing when I was sitting here in the process of making this video. I wasn't sure if I was going to be comfortable with like, you know, making the video as a whole. But I overcame that. I pushed through. I put in the work with the art pieces you had seen within the video, and not only that, but like just getting the footage as well. And like I feel more fulfilled that like I had overcame that, like those fears. I overcame those fears, and what and how the anxiety had changed me at one point, you know. And I'm grateful for that. So, you know, that's like a good point I wanted to make. And to add on to that, I also see it as another benefit to like why the video was delayed, because like it gave me new perspectives to give for the future videos I want to make, and also to solidify the roadmap that I want for the future of the channel, you know, and to get like the videos that I felt that were core to me, and also that I thought were crucial to put at the forefront of like what I wanted to make, right? So is that. And speaking of, you know, speaking of the reflections of myself and, you know, the videos, I also had new points I wanted to add back to this video. As you could see from the video, obviously it was not scripted because I wanted it to feel organic. And I feel like a big problem from the first attempt that I did for the video, I felt too robotic, you know? I felt like I was trying to follow this formula and everything, and like it felt like I was being too safe, you know? I didn't feel like me. And that bothered me, you know? So I wanted to redo it. And I'm glad I did, because I could feel far more comfortable when I was, you know, reviewing this video before, you know, publishing it, uh, putting it out there, you know. So I'm glad I did that, and I could see like, you know, more points I could add, you know, such as like the lack of identity that I could see with like current car designs. You know, I feel like a lot of them feel so similar to each other. I mean, look at the new Honda Prelude. It looks like the Prius and like the Porsche 911 if they were merged into one. And like, it's not a bad design. I like the design. Like, it looks cool, but I feel like it's just it feels weak with its own identity because it looks so similar to those cars. And like, I wish it could just stick with its own identity, you know. And there's nothing wrong with trying to make the Prelude look more aggressive, but like, do it in the way that feels like it's its own thing and not try to mimic like other brands, you know. That's something I wanted to that I had taken note of, you know. And I mean, like, there's not much that could be said. What they're gonna produce is what they're gonna produce, and I can't we can't change that. But you know, it's something to where I feel like that's missing from modern day cars, and that was something that was stronger from the 2000s, from early 2010s, from like the 90s. You know, you could see a stronger um identity that was formed at the times for the cars that were made at the time, you know. That's what I had taken note of from uh the delay of making this video, you know. And like, I could also add on like why I love Lightning McQueen and just like the little attributes that they had added to um the sound design, the animation and whatnot, and like I like that just like that V8, you know, like hearing it like for the first time, I can never forget it. And it feels so characteristically entwined with Lightning McQueen that like you can't separate the two. And like I feel like that's why it was so vivid in my mind to why I can recall it like so many times, and to also see that scene of like Doc where like he went on his one lap and like had drifted again, and like to see him doing that like masterfully, it was a cool aspect because it's like to see like this old dog like feel alive again. It was cool, and like there's so many moments I can like go on and on, but like hey, this is the end of the video. I'm not trying to keep y'all for too long, so there's that. And with moments like that, it's why I can recall back to them fondly because of my father, because of my mother, and like why like I driven them so crazy to the point where they even know the characters themselves, and that's like those are memories I will never forget until the day I pass away, and like why I'm so fortunate enough to just have my father and my mother be present within my life. And not only that, but for my mama to give me the chance to actually learn how to drive, like without my mama, like this video would not have been made. Without my mama, I want to be getting my license, and like I forever am appreciative for the time that my mama had made just to give me the lessons and the experience to learn how to drive. And even with the time, even though it was a short while, the experience I had with my father when he was teaching me how to drive, I think those are moments that are like crucial to like every kid's life, at least at this stage of humanity. That's what I feel. Good moments like that. So yeah, but I also wanted to mention the future of this channel, and that I wanted it to be clear there will be no AI. I don't care what anybody says. You can try to like hassle me like, oh, just accept the future. No, I don't care. I'm going to be as authentic with the crafts that I will be making in the future. I don't care. I want to be able to learn for myself and not just type up a prompt on like a keyboard just so that I can make content, I'm not gonna have access. Hell no. So yeah.